quality and the quantity of what's being said about us online is fairly critical, but exactly how do we go about doing that? I might start with you, Lee.
There are various tools, some of them, most of them free, some of them you have to pay for. There's all sorts of tools that will sort of assess content and analyse what's being said about your particular brand. There are tools to analyse how far your brand and your thoughts and comments about it are reaching. There are a plethora of tools out there. There's no shortage of, because it's an online digital world, everything can be tracked. So there's no shortage of tools. Sometimes the hardest thing is to figure out which tool am I going to use, because there are so many. And it's a learning curve you take the time to learn how to drive that particular tool, and they're all particular in the things that they do. But there's no shortage of tools.
It's a matter of figuring out what you want to measure as well. So it comes back to strategy. Your objective might be reaching just a select group of CEOs in Adelaide, for example, or it might be all the teenagers in Australia, and you have to try to work out before you delve into social media what result do you want. Is it sales? Is it user sign-ups? Is it some sort of a buzz or a brand recognition? Is it something more long-term of building a community over a few years and just listening to them? So just know what you're after, and then you know what you want to measure, and then you can bring the tools in after that.
So it's a question for each of you, and I'll be interested in each of your different answers. But Crispin, you talked about looking at a federal level discussion about Web 2.0. Now we're talking about Web 3.0. So how do we train ourselves to start thinking beyond the now and try and work out what's next? How do we push our own imaginations as far as communicators and try and anticipate what the next step in the journey is?
Next question.
Yeah, well, because we do all of our work with government agencies, we're talking about the most risk-averse organisations in the country. So they're very rarely going to be leading-edge practitioners. They're going to, like to say, with the federal agencies just starting to blog now, we're talking about 20-year-old technology and just starting to get heads around how to actually implement that sort of thing. A lot of the new stuff will always be led by the private sector, and probably small business private sector, because that's the way to make yourself known, to get yourself out there by being on the leading edge of these things. Government agencies don't need to do that as much. They've got to provide their services, they've got core business to deliver, and they need to focus on that sort of thing as the first point of call, and that's what they'll keep doing, I think. I've worked in the public sector long enough to know that we're talking about gradual change, not revolution. And if you talk about revolution, then frequently nothing happens at all. There needs to be an incremental process. And that's okay, by the way, that's okay. It's just incremental change is better than no change at all. It's just that you have to take people on a journey with you. You can't storm into an organisation and demand enormous change, especially with places that are as often as cultural and risk averse as government agencies are. There are very few that aren't. You might get the odd arts council or whatever who are trying to be leading edge, but most of them won't be inclined that way.
Michelle, you were, I guess, one of the first, certainly with that in Adelaide, to start using Foursquare. How do you stay ahead of the curve?
Reading a lot, just spending a lot of eyeball time in front of the screen. You have to subscribe to blogs, and Twitter's a great tool for that too. You follow enough of the right accounts on Twitter, and those people will give you the heads up on what's coming, and that's certainly how I heard about Foursquare. And not rejecting it outright as well. A lot of these new social media tools have the most ridiculous names as well, which I don't know, it's a fad that Google started perhaps, but you can look at it and say, no, Bouchard, that's ridiculous, I'm not having a bar of that. But you have to get past that and play in those places constantly.
Lee, your thoughts about sort of what is next? Aside of, we've heard from both Crispin and Michelle about how to try and keep ahead of the curve, but from your perspective, what is next for us?
We're seeing it with our televisions, and that there's a move towards the 3D world. They're just about to release a television that doesn't require 3D goggles, so you can watch 3D movies without having to put, the Men in Black spectacles on. So for me, my view is that the 3D world will be coming next. Now, we still haven't, as an online community, we still haven't figured out what Web 3.0 means. It's not 3D, it's the semantic web, but yet no one has yet, actually captured what the semantic web is. So we can point to these directions down which we're heading. And of course, history being what it is, and has shown us many a time, that what in fact will happen will come completely out of left field and will surprise everyone, and where we thought we were going will suddenly change direction, because we've seen that over the course of just the World Wide Web with Alta Vista, the search engine when the World Wide Web was first around. Alta Vista was the search engine, would never be replaced. Suddenly along came Yahoo. Well, Yahoo was the search engine, and nothing would ever knock Yahoo off its pedestal. And along came Google. And suddenly, Google would always be the #1 website in the world. Well, suddenly here's Facebook. So we don't know, what's going to come next. All we can do as communicators, in no matter which sub-discipline we're in, but all we can do as communicators is just keep our ear to the ground and our nose to the grindstone, and just try and pick up on what is going to happen next. Keep dipping our toes in all the water. For every tool that comes along that may have some sort of potential value, there'll be 100 that won't. But for your client's sake, you need to be in there and branding, getting your clients secure in the digital domain, in that brand, just in case that tool takes off in 2 years' time. So you need to be in there. And then you'll find out whether it works for you or not.
Okay, well, I might throw to the floor now. I'm sure there's a whole heap of questions from the people in the audience. So I know we've got a couple of, we've got roving mics. Yep, so...
We haven't got any, I'm monitoring the Twitter stream, by the way, for hashtag marketing week, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of questions, just a lot of comments about how hot Michelle is.
And most of them have been posted by Lee for some reason.
Yeah. No hands typing. How does that work?
So, do we have some questions?
Or not?
Or not?
Yeah, well done.
There's a microphone just coming.
Tim Hughes, I'm Michelle's colleague. Because I don't get what she does.
Starts with being an boss.
That's right. So I've asked her this question. How does the average Joe not get overwhelmed by new media and social media when they're putting together a communications plan? I just want to keep Michelle honest on that. So I'll ask Crispin and me.
Go on then, you first. You said you first.
Okay, the main, I start small and then work up from there. That'd be my advice to every organisation and agency. This is why I say incrementalism is okay. Just work out who your target market is and what the objectives are around that, and pick the tool or the platform or that works specifically for that market, and experiment in that space before you go broader than that. So it might be that a Facebook page is a good way to start for some organisations. Facebook pages are nice and safe. You don't have to have people making comments on there. You can manage the space if you use it just to make sure you've got a presence in the Facebook world, and you don't have to worry about people saying nasty things about you necessarily, but you're in that space. And then as you get more comfortable and competent with technology and practice, then you can open it up and let people actually have a conversation with you in that space, which is the direction you want to be heading in, but you don't have to do it right away as you get comfortable and competent with, because we train a lot of people, and I'm always surprised by the number of people that want us to actually show them how to sign up for a Facebook account, and so you have to go to that level of competency right from the outset with a lot of individuals. So you start from the basics and then work from there. So you don't have to do 1,000 things at once.
I agree. Rome wasn't built in a day. You don't need to build Rome in a day. You start small. You start from the business strategy. What's the strategy of what are the business goals of your client, for example, and you figure